Islam.
Islam.
First, I want to give the highest praise to the Father God Allah for who made us and the reason that we are all here. Giving honors to the Prophet Noble Ali and his forerunner, the Harbinger, Marcus Hosea Garvey. Giving honors to the first Supreme Sheikh, Grand Sheikh, Brother Emiliel, and to all the duly appointed Supreme Grand Sheikhs up to and including our current Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother D. Bailey-El. Today, we're going to have a conversation about love. And I want it to be a true conversation, not just me saying things and no one asking things or saying things, a true conversation. I want to read some things to you from the Prophet's literature first. The first one is on page 8. I'm sorry, it's number 8, page 14. And the Prophet warns all Muslims, and it's to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work and in their homes or on their streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement, founded by the prophet Noble Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. So there's 2 other ones that I want to read, but as I looked through the prophet's literature and I came to that one, I thought about, for example, the confusion that goes on in the world. And if we are actually doing what we're supposed to do, leading with that first principle, there shouldn't be any confusion in the world. We're fighting unnecessary battles with other people, and unnecessary battles within ourselves. So today, with the topic being love, who do you think you should love first?
Self.
Self is who you should love first, and we don't talk about that today. The next reading comes from page 34, and it is number 26. From the Prophet Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth, and I'm going to repeat that, now that they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth, that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend on for their earthly salvation as American citizens. They are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so that they may take charge of the situation. I've notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respect to me in the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present. So I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It is proven by my works, which I performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Ali. When I first read that or heard that, I had mixed emotions about it. Like, are we serious right now? What is this really saying to me? Am I hearing the same things that I've always heard in the same interpretation that I've always heard them, be it in a Christian church, a Catholic church? I've been to many, a Lutheran church, wherever. Am I hearing the exact same things? Then the longer I studied it and the more I thought about it and the more that I knew about the Moorish Science Temple of America, where Noble Ali said that this is the only sole foundation that we should depend on as Moors, whether it's nationalized Moors or unnationalized Moors. We need to move underneath our own fig and vine tree. And then when I thought about him saying that we need finance, he said, I need finance, but if he is the movement needing finance, and at 50 cents a meeting, that's not a whole lot of finance. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not hearing that same thing that I thought I was originally hearing. It's interesting because I invited someone to come here today, and while we were having the conversation, the person said, so do I need to give an offering, and is this enough? And gave an amount. And that goes towards what I'm saying right now, because after being in all of these different places, and especially some of the Christian churches that I've been to, you think about tithing, and tithe is actually supposed to be not just tithing money, but tithing your time. So if it's 20%, it's 20% of whatever you have to offer, because your time is money. But being underneath that, thinking, okay, well, am I supposed to write a check for $50? Is it $20? Is it $200? What is it? And coming back and centering myself and thinking about what that means. It does take finance to raise a nation. This is a whole nation and not just one individual building. Islam?
Islam.
And then the last one that I want to read is on page 39. And it is called History Defined. History may be defined in a way as to record the life of mankind. It is the rise and the progress of those famous people whose doings constitute the history of civilization. In this, its proper and highest science, history proposes that nations of the world advance beyond the natural or primitive state, and to these belong our great leader, Muhammad, directed by our Father God Allah. Respecting mankind outside of nations, there is much interesting and valuable knowledge supplied by various sciences. By the aid of these sciences, much is now known regarding mankind's customs, manners, languages, arts, and religions, which bring us back to our Father Allah and the Muslim religion. So what I want you to think about as you consider that is Father God Allah. We have love. We have love for all things. Think about how much the education system has changed. Think about how much, and I'm going to say holy buildings, that's our, religious buildings, because when a Moorish American Muslim, Sheikh or Sheikess enters any of these buildings, it becomes a temple, because we have temples that reside inside of us. So whether they know it or not, that's what happens. And when we think about the connection of all things and the way that things are taught in formal education, be it elementary school, kindergarten, preschool, junior high, high school, graduate school, undergraduate, wherever you're at, and you think about the connection of all those things, how can those things exist? And how do we share that knowledge with each other? You know, we share knowledge with each other through love. And why is that? Because if we don't love each other, we don't actually care if that knowledge is shared. Mm-hmm. A problem with the world today. So the prophets, the prophet was ordained by Father God Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Ways, when I think about it, although if you read in the Constitution and bylaws, in Act 6, we're working to uplift fallen humanity so that people realize that they are not Negroes, Black people, colored folks, or Ethiopians because of when those names were given to us. So we have to go way back. So we're going to go back to history, we're going to go back to science, we're going to go to genealogy, all those things. We got to go way back to teach ourselves who we are. And simple ways, the problem, the Negro problem, the Black problem, the Ethiopian problem, is that it's more than just claiming or proclaiming your nationality. The Negro problem exists in our ways, and our ways are our actions and deeds. So not just what are we doing. We see the things that we're doing and the things that we're doing that we shouldn't be doing, but what are we not doing? So the Negro problem, the Black problem, the Black Lives Matters problem exists in our ways, actions, and deeds. If we're saying that we're not this and we believe that we're not this, then we need to stop perpetuating what is there after slave times and start talking about what came before. But we gotta love ourselves first. And that's hard. The Negro problem comes from the condition of our mind. And what happens is we open. You know, you see all these people, they're talking about, I'm woke, I'm conscious. People have been doing that for years and years and years. And let me just say, I'm woke is not actually the way that it should be said. So perhaps if they became awake and stayed there, we'd be farther along than we are. But what happens is we get some knowledge, we ingrain that knowledge, we start looking all over the place to find new things, and then we get angry. How many of you have read something, woke up, and was like, what? That happened? And you're mad about it? Islam?
Islam.
Okay. I've been mad too. I've been mad about a lot of things on a lot of days. But when you get to a point of where you have true love, you're no longer angry. You realize what happened, but you also realize what part we played in it and continue to play in it. Islam? So being Moorish American, I look at it like a renewal or a do-over. When you realize that's who you are, when you realize what that actually means. So, you know, it might be a person who has a surgery. They had a bad knee or a bad hip, and they couldn't walk in. Now they've had a surgery to replace that hip, and they can exercise, they can run again, they can walk again. So they got a do-over, they got a renewal of an ailment and illness within their body. So being Moorish American and learning, so a nationalized Moorish American or a nationalist, whichever, just learning actually supposed to live is that do-over, because you're supposed to live through love. You know, as there's so many holy books that speak about these exact same things, about how we're supposed to be who we are. In the Holy Bible, Romans 12:12 speaks about it. We're supposed to be who we are, and we're supposed to act in it. We're supposed to not react because of how we feel that somebody else acted upon. In the Holy Quran, you can look them up. That would be in the Holy Bible, Romans 12:12. And in the Holy Quran, Surah 13 and Ayat 11. Speak about where the problem exists and how we're supposed to know who we are. How everyone, when I say we, everyone, meaning the humankind, everyone is supposed to know who they are. So love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Those 5 principles that we are supposed to live by. In a previous lecture given by the Grand Governor, Brother Ishmael Blackshear Bey, he talked about how those things feed into each other. And so you lead through love, and then you get peace, and there's freedom, because there's always freedom with peace. Inner turmoil is not peaceful, so you can't be free if you have turmoil. And then justice. If those other things don't prevail, justice will occur. And if you heard what I said when I was reading, the ultimate justice comes from our Father God Allah. So what that says to me is a lot of the things that I've worried about and continue to worry about at different times, I don't have to worry about anymore. I'm just not going to worry. And it's that simple. There's a period at the end of that, because we don't have to, because the ultimate justice, the ultimate salvation belongs to the ultimate judge, the Father God Allah. Any questions?
No.
Thoughts? So y'all just gonna have me stand up here and just talk to myself, right? I'm about to start calling people out. Like, I'm gonna need you to look up this, you to look up this.
Right.
You know, like I do in my other life when I'm the teacher and the assistant professor. Did you get that? What do you think about that? Those types of things. Another thing that came to my mind as I was preparing for this was our questionnaires. You know, it's actually called, and for anybody who doesn't have one, this is a little book right here. It is called The Quran Questions for Moorish Americans. And it's something that they say are directed to the children of the Moorish Science Temple of America. When you think about it, the word children, as we've always thought about it, will be a little risky right there. But it's not. That would be all of us, because we're all children of the Father God Allah, and there's always something that we can learn. At the moment that you've learned everything that you can learn, you reach self-actualization, you should be at one with Allah, and we are all still in this room. Islam?
Islam.
Okay, so, and I'm going a little bit out of order, which isn't the way that I was taught to look at the questions, but it's the way that it came to me when I was thinking about it yesterday. We have to realize ourselves. In order to reach self-actualization, in order to deal with self, we have to realize ourselves. So question number 66 says, how many selves are there? Two. And question number 67 says, name them.
Higher, lower self.
Higher self and the lower self. And then question number 65 says, what is the devil sometimes called?
Lower self.
Okay, so the reason that I did it in that order instead of the other order is simply because what that says to me is I have two things to think about. In psychology, you talk about the id, the ego, the superego. You talk about instant gratification. You talk about all of those things that you want now. And when I can't get them or when I'm mad, I'm going to act like this. That would be lower self mentality. While we're here on earth, we need to meet what I call, we need to strive to meet, bring our lower self up to our higher self. But while we're getting there and working on it, we need to think every day, consider, okay, that's an option, I think. But if you consider an option, it's always an option. So if I consider fighting for something to be an option, then it's always an option until I don't consider it anymore. So if I get angry about police brutality or whatever it is, and I say, you know what? This person did this, and I need to go out, fist in the air. First of all, should your fist be in the air? Should it? I don't hear no.
No.
Because what are you doing? Blocking the blessing. Fist shouldn't be in the air. It's an open palm. You come in peace. This is anger. So I can be angry, or I can be peaceful. Every day I look at Facebook or Twitter or wherever I'm looking at, Instagram or whatever, and somebody posts, love conquers hate. Right after that, somebody posts something hateful. And then later on that day, that same person that said love conquers hate might post something hateful. In my emoji face. If love conquers hate, should hate ever be an option?
No.
Might be angry about something. I'm angry because I got to pay bills. But I can't possibly hate the bill. I need the lights, I need the gas. So we should always lead through love, be in love, consider love. Hate has to stop becoming an option. If we're the ones who are supposed to teach people, then we're the ones who have to stop perpetuating it. Easier said than done, I know. So now I'm going to actually go ahead and get into some things that come out of our Holy Quran. It's right here, there's a little bitty book right here compared to a lot of readings, Bibles, the Torah, the Holy Quran of Mecca, very, very tiny book based on a lot of other things that also identifies those 18 missing years in the life of Jesus Christ. The first thing that I want to mention in this book is it's in chapter 1, and it says, this right here is everything. There was never a time when man was not. There was never a time when we weren't here, when we didn't exist, when we weren't in the realm. And I'm calling it the realm for a reason, because then I'm going to go into the realms and what I mean by that. Man himself is not the body, not the soul. He's a spirit and a part of Allah. Man was actually given a soul so that man could function on the plane of souls, and man was given a body so that man could function on the plane of manifest. So we have a spirit covered in a soul, covered in a body. And the goal is to get back to that spirit man, or bring that spirit man out of all of us so we can actually go ahead and love everybody. Not an easy task, especially if you don't learn to love yourself first. Then I said, man is a spirit and a part of Allah. So if we're a spirit and a part of Allah, how can we possibly not love? How is that even possible? How is hate ever an option? Any ideas? No, silence, because it can't be. Hate can never be an option if we know the truth, and the truth is that we are a spirit and a part of Allah. We should be able to every day see something that says to us, yep, you know what? I look out this window, I see the water, I see cars, I see trees, I see grass. In a few minutes, I might see a couple of animals. I wave at them, you know. But we should be able to see it. I see everybody is there. Y'all see me. We see walls. We see all kinds of things that exist on this plane, but they couldn't exist if it weren't by the Creator, which we are a part of, and that's why we're physically able to do these things. We can measure things. We can cook. We can eat. We can paint. We can do math. We can do science. We can perform operations. We can do all kinds of things because we have that peace in us. So we need to be able to see that peace within everybody else, regardless of a complexion, how much melanin they got, regardless of whether or not their forefather did something that they benefited from. Because, oh yeah, it happened and it continues to happen. That's their problem. That's not our problem. And when we show them that's not a me thing, that's a you thing. How many of you have heard people say that? Yep, you know what? That's not a me thing, that's a you thing. Meaning that that person needs to fix that. That person needs to fix that. We can only fix us. And that's where the concentration needs to be. We need to live in those 5 principles. And we need to teach others how to live in those 5 principles as well. How do you teach other people to live in those 5 principles? How do you teach other people anything? Islam, modeling. Does everybody know what modeling means? That's good. That's good. Does everybody know what modeling means? Modeling, mimicry. We have babies. What do you do with babies? You show babies. Babies learn what you do. The other night, my grandson was at the house, and my daughter was saying, "Way to go." Next thing you know, he was saying it. They want to do what we do. So we, meaning babies or the unknowing, want to do what the people who are in the know do. Islam
always says, man knows not by being told, but by being shown.
Islam. What the brother said is that the grand governor always says, man knows not by being shown, but not by being told, but by being shown. So we need to model the way so that other people see that way. We need to show it in our words, our actions, and our deeds all the time. But sometimes we let those things that are going on in society get in our way. They get in our heads. It's called programming. It's been done multiple times for multiple things. We watch movies where we see that people were programmed to do things a certain way, we see in the military, people are taught to march. People are taught drills. You go to school, you're taught your ABCs. By singing them, you were taught how to do math. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 2. If that was programming, how is the programming that we're receiving through various outlets not the same thing? And if you're open, guess what happens? You learn to hate, or you increase your ability to accept hate as an option. And again, hate should never be an option. And I read a lot of things and thought about a lot of things as I was getting prepared for this today. And one of the things that I did was I looked at love, the definition of love. Does anybody know what the definition of love is? If you don't, somebody look it up for me. Y'all knew it was coming.
Coming right up.
Coming right up.
Since in a general sense, to be pleased with, to regard with affection on account of some qualities which excite pleasing sensations or desire. That's a long.
So basically, give me some key words out of that long definition.
Here we go, to have benevolence or goodwill for.
Okay, so the definition of love is to have benevolence or goodwill for. Although you saw that there was another definition that was really, really long, we have a whole lot of them. So next question is love a noun or a verb?
Both.
It is both. How many people knew that? It's both in the connotation and how it's used. A lot of people, you know. And the etymology of the word love is actually to cherish, delight in, or approve of. So if we decide that we approve of ourselves, do you see where I'm going here? I'm enough. Are you enough? Look like you enough to me. You enough? Look like you enough. Everybody in here, you look like you enough. Y'all feel like that commercial? You're a winner. You're a winner. You're a winner. You're a winner. Once we decide and we incorporate it into ourselves that we are enough, and we approve ourselves, and we cherish ourselves, and we delight in ourselves because we are a true product and a part of Allah, then all we can do is love ourselves. Therefore, love each other and everybody else and everything that Allah ever created. Islam? We have different types of love. There's love for family. There's love for friends. There's love for your spouse. I might love a certain, I don't know, outfit, purse, dress, whatever. Different types of things that we say are love. But the love that I'm talking about here is that love that is the type of love that came from Allah, the love of Allah. And you can hear people will be upset about something because someone did something that just seems utterly ridiculous. And they'll say, oh my goodness, for the love of God, why would you do that? Think about how strong of a statement that is. For the love of God, because what that person did is more than likely something that God would never do. For the love of God, why would we ever hate people or hate things? There's many religious practices and holy books that talk about love. There are many other practices that talk about love, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. For the Christianity, they talk about agape love. That's the love of God for man and of man for God. For Hindu and the Hinduism faith, they talk about devotional love. Confucius said at least it has over 300 quotes about love. Confucius said, wheresoever you go, go with all your heart. And where's your heart? Heart is your mind. I'm not talking about that one in your chest. Although if I ever say to you, I love you with my heart and my chest, that's my whole entire being. Islam? Okay. So Buddha said, true love is born from understanding. And what do we need to understand in order to truly love? Islam, I heard something. It sounded like it was real, but the truth, but I'm not sure. It wasn't.
Sound like brother said ourselves.
Sound like brother said ourselves, and that's exactly the truth. I warned him. Did y'all hear me warn? And then he tried to whisper. What is that? Okay, so a little bit more. Maya Angelou, who I love to life, said some things about love. She has an actual statement. She said, as far as love, I do not trust people who do not love themselves and yet tell me I love you. Then she went on to say, there's an African saying which is, be careful when a naked man offers you a shirt. Islam? If I don't have a shirt to give you, if it ain't on me, do you really want that shirt? So if I don't love me, are you sure you want me to tell you that I love you? Here's a thought. Watching the time here. Any discussion? Anybody want to say anything? Y'all are quiet. Islam.
No, what do I say back?
I don't know what you want to say.
Okay, so I'm thinking about the hate when you're talking about how do we, purge ourselves of hate because we shouldn't be hating. We're creatures of love and the spirit of alive and self-actualization. I think a lot of it has to do with not only being amongst fellow people that think the same, but in the modeling capacity, people should know when they come around you in your aura, hate is not there. And you should be able to model to them to sweep to the side. So in other words, when somebody comes, everybody in this room, I know I can't talk about the Chicago Bears that dude. I know I can't talk about the Cleveland Browns. I can't talk about Brown. I can't talk about cooking. I can't talk about this. But no, you cannot gossip and you cannot talk about hate because for me, I stand for this. And I think maybe if that's the way we present it, especially to our young people, because they try to run a blocker in their defiant ways about always talking about religion and rules. But when they say on God, on hood and all that, no, it's an antithesis. Because if you go out there and talk about how you jump somebody, that's not on God. Anybody's God. That's not on hood. That's not on love. So I think the modeling is maybe not just correcting them, but redirecting them. Just leave on God, on hood, because that's not what that's about. So just kind of a couple thoughts about what you said. That is love as well. We model, we show, we do not discourage, and we do not judge. But we let you know when you come around us, your aura has to be right.
Islam.
Yep.
So this brings me, and you actually weren't here when I did this because it was way earlier, but we did it because so we could open up on time. And in the beginning, we read our divine constitution and bylaws. And what you just touched on was Act 3. Act 3 says, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Morris Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister because Allah is love. There it is. So how can we say these things? How can we say, regardless of what your faith is, how can you say that you have a faith and that you have a love for mankind without having a love for all mankind? I heard another whisper. I'm gonna start calling out names. Yeah, really.
I said it was a contradiction in terms.
A contradiction in terms, that's loud. So I'm gonna move on into the Holy Quran of the Morris Science Temple of America. And I'm actually, normally we kind of talk about out of one chapter, but I'm doing something a little bit different because I was guided to do it a little bit different in my mind. My mind said that I needed to look at it a little bit differently. So I'm doing two things. So we're gonna have something out of chapter 36 and chapter 37. Both are on page 44 if you have your Quran. And chapter 36 is called The Holy Instructions from the Prophet Know Thyself. Again, we just talked about how important that is. Chapter 37 is Holy Instructions from the Prophet, the Breath of Heaven. Those two things kind of ride together just a little bit. It's the Holy Breath. So in chapter 36, the first verse says, weak and ignorant as thou art, O man, humble as thou oughtest to be. O child of the dust, wouldst thou raise thy thoughts to infinite wisdom? Wouldst thou see omnipotence displayed before thee, contemplate thy frame? So I want you to think about that. And then I'm going to take you to chapter 37 and roll the things together, yes? Repeat it?
Yeah.
Yes. Weak and ignorant as thou art, O man, humble as thou oughtest to be. O child of the dust, wouldst thou raise thy thoughts to infinite wisdom? Wouldst thou see omnipotence displayed before thee, contemplate thy frame? When I think about that, I think about how arrogance sometimes is wisdom, and we think it's wisdom. It makes us think that, well, I know what's right. I don't care what nobody say. I got this, because it's our arrogance. But it actually shows that we're weak and ignorant, especially when we're boastful about it. So what if you do know? Is that the way you should display it? Or should you actually go ahead and share what you know with other people? Share with everybody. Let everybody know. And at the very end, it says, contemplate thy frame. Contemplate who you are. Should you act like that? Not if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Chapter 37, verse 1. Vaunt not thy body, because it was first formed, not of thy brain, because therein thy soul resided. It is not the master of the house more honorable than the wall. So is not the master of the house more honorable than our frame? The ground must be prepared before corn can be planted. The potter must build his furnace before he can make porcelain. People have to be ready. We tend to decide that we want to, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to grab this, I'm going to grab that, I'm going to grab this, I'm going to grab that. And if you remember in the beginning, I said, and then we get angry. I know this, I know who I am. I don't know why y'all acting like this. How many of you have ever tried to take anything to somebody and then got mad because they weren't accepting of what you tried to take to them?
Yeah.
All the time. And get mad about it. You already knew the person didn't know. And if they didn't know when you gave it to them, you got to give them time to understand it. You can't get mad. And you can't get mad if they didn't understand it on your time frame. Everybody has their own. If you love them, if you love yourself, then you got to give them time to get to where they're supposed to be. Because when they're going to get there, it's not up to us. You fertilize the soil, and then it's left up to that person to have that divine connection, realize that love, and grow. Islam.
And people do that too, and like, but some people didn't know, well, we just said pretty much. And everybody else didn't know at the same time. This person found out and said, oh, I've been to that. I should have been to that. That area is
Exactly.
You can't spread information without somebody tearing down some kind of way.
Islam. And that's any information. Anything. You didn't know that this tree blooms at this time, or this is the allergy at that time? Oh, you didn't know if you mix these two colors together, you get that? Islam.
Islam. I was just going to touch too on 36, like further down, the prophet was basically laying it out to the fact of how things are set up to where we have the authority over nature, all the animals and all that. And he said, like, you don't know what you have. Like, you have so many abilities, and you choose to, do the silly stuff that we do, not realizing where we really sit as far as the food chain, the chain of command and all that. Like, he said we're next to Allah as far as how things go on this earth, and we do some of the dumbest stuff.
We do, and the ultimate goal is to be at one with Allah, so we need to stop doing some of those things that we do.
Right. Like you said, the cow don't know he's being fed to get slaughtered. We know that, but we still choose what,
To go ahead and keep feeding, or as they say, sipping the Kool-Aid or drinking the milk or whatever it is, so that we can actually ultimately feed ourselves so that we can be slaughtered, even within ourselves. That's an excellent analogy. Because if I keep feeding myself that programming, and I keep getting angry about it, and I act out about it, and I do something crazy, and somebody arrests me, whose fault is that exactly?
So what did you expect?
So in order to get people to where they need to be, it's just like we were saying, we have to project it. And it shouldn't be in our aura. It shouldn't be in our aura that we're going to get upset if somebody says something to us. You can say whatever you want to say to me. That's a you problem, not a me problem. Yesterday, I was tagged in this post on Facebook, and the person said, why does this remind me of you? Now, I know all y'all about to go on Facebook and look and see what I was tagged in. It was a conversation where somebody was having a party, and there were people sitting at the table. And there were 3 gentlemen. They were all different ethnicities, nationalities. And he was having a party. He was Asian. And he said, so everybody's coming, right? There's going to be this, chips, dip, whatever. And the first person said, I'm sorry, I can't come because I'm doing this. The second person said, I'm sorry, I can't come because I'm doing this. The third person, who was an Asiatic woman, said, I'm sorry, I can't come because I don't want to. Now, for those of you in this room who actually know me, yeah, I'm not doing it because I don't want to. I don't feel the desire to make up a reason or to get angry about things. It just is. I always say there's just a period after it. Exclamation points have emotion. I'm simply not doing it has no emotion. So if I love, and I simply love, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. You want me to do something and I'm not going to do it, I'm just simply not going to do it. And we need to think about those things. And then we don't have so much confusion. Who's ever been invited to go someplace and you knew that they were counting on you to go, but I really don't want to go. I don't want to go. I would rather just be right here and do nothing. And then you were so fragmented internally about the fact that you felt like you had to be there and it was eating you up. Then you go and you don't have a good time because you didn't want to go in the first place, but you fought with yourself thinking that you needed to have a reason. And the reason might be, I'm tired or I don't want to, but those aren't good enough reasons, are they? Those aren't good enough reasons. I'm not worried about what the current president is doing. Do you know why? I don't need to be. I don't need to be worried about what the government is doing, period. I can have a concern about it. I can be interested in it. I don't need to worry about it. And if I'm actually leading through love, and a group of us is leading through love, and that spreads like wildfire, who do you think is going to win? Oh, oops, I lied. And then none of the rest of it matters. But we got to get there. And that's why today's topic ended up being love, love of self. If you love you enough, then why are you so worried about somebody and something else? Because we're all enough. Chapter 36, verses 2, 3, and 4. 2, fearfully and wonderfully art thou made. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Y'all fearfully and wonderfully made. Absolutely. Praise therefore thy creator with awe and rejoice before him in reverence. So when you're having a bad day or something is bothering you, don't let it bother you. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. If you fearfully and wonderfully made, don't worry about it. This too shall pass. When I was a director of nursing in the beginning, oh my goodness, I am very organizational, something or another. And I used to be very, very uptight. Oh, the phone would ring and I'd be like, oh my goodness, I gotta answer it right now. I gotta answer it right now. Gotta answer it right now. Truest statement I've ever heard. Don't answer that phone. Give them 5 minutes. They'll figure it out. And if they don't, they'll call you back. Give them 5 minutes. I start giving them 10, 15, 20. Guess what? They figured it out. They figured it out. So instead of picking up that phone and answering it right away and getting all upset and stuff, I ended up teaching myself not to be upset. Okay, you know what? I praise God that they could reach out to me and they felt like I knew this, but I also praise God that they fixed it on their own. And it's no longer a problem. God give praise every day. And when we realize who we are, why we're here, and what we need to do, and live in our truth, which is the truth, then we start worrying about those things. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy, because it can be a battle every day and throughout the day, because we're not perfect. There's 12 steps to perfected man, and we ain't there yet, because again, we still sitting in this room. Verse 3, wherefore all creatures art thou only erect, but that thou shouldest behold his works. Wherefore art thou to behold, but that thou mayest admire him. Wherefore to admire, but that thou mayest adore there in thy creator. That goes back to what Brother Murray Bay was saying. We have it. We are it. We, all of us, are the children. We are a part of. We are a piece of. We have that love. We have all of those things. And we simply need to live in them. I'm going to keep saying that over and over again because I'm working on some programming here. We just talked about programming. I'm programming here. So I don't just want you to have it in this room. I want you to take it out of this room. I want you to live in it tomorrow, because I guarantee tomorrow something is going to come up in your life where you're going to be like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm upset about this. Oh my goodness, it's another bill in the mailbox. Well, snow's gonna fall. Ah, I hate to drive in the snow to go to work. Oh, but guess what? I got a job. I got that bill because I got lights, I got gas, I got utilities. Oh, it's a car note. I'm not walking. Rejoice in what we have. Learn to love what we have instead of hate the means by getting there. Islam? 4 says, wherefore is consciousness reposed on thee alone? And whence is it derived to thee? Consciousness. Well, we just talked about that. So you woke up, and where do you think being awake came from? Rejoice in it. Rejoice in what we learn every single day. So you learn your history. We learn, well, and I'm a considerable amount older than some of the people in this room. The history that we learned and the way that we learned it, I don't think today's society would be able to handle it. Today's society wouldn't be able to see roots from 1970 because there would be some huge racial riots because it was ugly. It was atrocious, and it was a family movie week, a thing that all families, all of our families did together. Oh, it's Roots Week. Nobody called anybody. Nobody went over anybody's house because you already knew what everybody was going to be doing. And you sat there and you watched it and you were programmed into it. And then when it was over, it was over. But you watched it, you watched it, you watched it. You got angry about it. You know, this is the 70s. It was already angry from the 50s and the 60s. If you saw, what is it called? The movie that's about the women. What's it called? What?
No.
Hidden Figures. When did that occur? The 1960s. So when you think about what this time period is right now, and people went out and they saw Hidden Figures, and like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe these things happen. And they just happened. I mean, I could be upset about it. Somebody who was born in the 60s, they could be upset about it. They could still be upset about it. Or they could say, yep, that happened. And you know what? The person, the people who actually perpetuated it, that's their problem. The end result was what? Was it a negative end result? No, it was a positive end result. So when you go through it and you look at the very end, were they upset while it was going on? Their being upset turned into determination. A lot of times in today's society, the upset turns into determination in a negative way. And there is no negativity in life. Comments?
Yeah,
Islam.
my problem with movies, not like that, but like slave movies or things related to that, is there was something about what happened during, and it's supposed to come off as a formal, but it's focused more on the torturous type of aspect of it versus why they even started in the first place. We never get to the basis of why any of that started. They'll never really give us the real answers to that.
Money, movie.
Exactly. The real answer is money, but I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
I got no money. It's like because it's business. You know?
Islam, what I hear you saying though, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that okay, you go to the movie, you see all the brutality of it, and it doesn't get to the, okay, so what happened before it? What happened after it? What do we do? Because we can't, every time that those shows come on, we're reliving it, and then people end up living in it. Is that what you're saying? Okay, Islam, because that's why I said that 1970s Roots, that was a monster. Because when I saw Birth of a Nation, I had to make some extra prayer beads. I sat there literally watching it, making prayer beads, and then I had to be quiet for a long time for a minute because it had been a really long time since I had seen a movie like that, because I don't watch movies like that. Our history books used to be thick. They were big, thick books set at a 12 font. You look at a history book right now for a child, if they have one,
Right.
it's like a 14 font. It's got a bunch of pictures. It's about a half an inch thick. So basically, the history that's being shared there only highlights pieces of the true history. And then you take that same society that's seeing these little pieces, and they go to a movie, and they see this violence, and violence perpetuates violence. So we don't go back to programming. And if you don't know how to, if you're not grounded within how to cloak yourself so that that programming doesn't get inside your soul, not your spirit, because your spirit ain't gonna never absorb that, but inside your soul, then what you do is you get mad. You mad at the world. And is this a mad world right now? Is that?
I think it's also self-knowledge, because I was teaching the students, like, in other words, this brother right here is asking, okay, well, what is the end result? It's an economic system of oppression. I'm not sanitizing it, that's all it is. It's not black, white, yellow, red, or brown, it's gray, who has the most? Okay, but some students are surprised to know that in Africa, when civilization began, we had slaves. So if you understood that, they're like, what? And then they didn't know where to take that anger, like you said, because they're like, we're already seeing this movie. The other key thing is from perspective. I'm just sharing this right now, and everybody in the room can handle that. And you can internalize it, and you can intellectualize it, and you'll go study it. Well, who in Ghana, who in this, and who did this had slaves? And you will teach people. When I'm trying to tell these kids, they're growing up in anger, and the perspective of perhaps those with money that might not be of color, or might not have good intent, or might not have spiritual that are presenting the program. I think that's important to know. Part of that self-actualization is to seek the knowledge out, because it brings a whole new connotation, doesn't it? Okay, so slavery. Okay, so what you're saying, yes, it was horrible in the United States, but it's horrible in Africa too, because in Africa, they took prisoners of war and put them with other people, and if they didn't like you and your next door neighbor, literally, y'all all became the slaves of the people that had the most. So it is an industry, and it's socioeconomic. So instead of focusing on what is presented to us so heavily, like you said, and getting that heavy weight on our soul, can we say, okay, how can we avoid this trap again economically? And are there areas in which we are enslaved right now? Because really, is Toledo Edison our master? Do they work us every month? Yes, because we got to pay the highest rates in the state. So I mean, it's just like you said, love is sometimes affording others the opportunity to be analytical and sharing our knowledge.
Okay, well, I completely agree with what you're saying, and as far as, I do teaching now at the actual school up the street at the Academy of Educational Excellence.
Yes, we have 2 educators in the room.
On 5th grade, and one of the, we just had an issue at school with, actually just amongst some of the Asiatic teachers, and because we had pulled them to a room. In the 5th grade, we teach a lot of different things, and we kind of don't really go by the curriculum, but we have to.
You go by the curriculum, but you might add some extra things in that lend to the curriculum.
That's the majority of ours is what we add to. Because we were teaching them about checkbooks, economics, we were teaching them about credit scores, this, that, blah, blah. Do you know that some of the parents called and complained because they couldn't help their kids with their homework, so they were complaining that some of the things that we were teaching them was too hard for them in the 5th grade. And we also got, not yelled at, but we got caught in trouble because we were basically told to follow the curriculum. And the kids in this class, the system is set up, it's set up for the dumbing down of not only America, but our country.
I was going to use that term, Islam.
And like I said, I was so frustrated when we spoke to that. We were told that no, we can't really be teaching these kids the things that they need to know about law and the different things that we teach in the class. And I'm like, what do you want us to teach? How can you tell us not to teach these kids this or this or this? It's extremely frustrating when the system is perpetuating that.
So how can you think about it? How can you, this is what you said to me, how can I love somebody, try to teach them what they need to do to be productive in society and follow a curriculum that simply is dedicated, is predicated on and dedicated towards making sure that perhaps there might be a standardized test, but I'm not teaching them to function. And that bothered you. And it should. I'm seeing the look of the other educator in the room. It's like, I know this feeling very well. It is, and it's something that you see at all levels. And Brother Chris L. Gray says, or Grayle says, the dumbing down of society too. And it started a long time ago. And what's happening is we're seeing it now, because the dumbing down of society started little by little by little, and it's always existed. And it is why some people learn some things and other people learn other things. It is why people used to say Okay, well, you know what? I want my child to have a parochial education versus a public school education. And now you look at it in a lot of places, there's no difference. And they're not getting those basic things. You want to teach kids how to balance a checkbook. Oh, no, they don't need to balance a checkbook. They can just go ahead and not have, or they can go ahead and try to hustle because, you know, no industry can even be a partner. Oh, but we're supposed to be a part and a partial of the state government. So that doesn't make sense, does it? Mm-hmm. Islam? Mm-hmm. Just saying. The next thing that I want to bring up, because we got a little bit over 15 minutes, but chapter 37, verses 3 through 7. So having talked about we are wonderfully made, we need to rejoice, we need to know ourselves, we need to realize that, yeah, if I walk in the room and this is what's going on, it might upset me. You need to know that in advance. My dissertation was about recognizing stress and how to manage stress. So what happens is if you know you're going to walk into an environment that's going to make you upset in any way, or even get you excited in any way, how do you manage that? Well, you have to know yourself first. That means you have to have an idea that it was going to make you feel some kind of way. So knowing that something is going to make you feel some kind of way, knowing that if you put the TV on this channel, if you look at this, you're probably going to have an emotion attached to it, which we shouldn't have to have emotions attached to it because it's not a person. It's a TV or it's an inanimate object. We don't need to have emotions attached to any of those things. But if you know that that's going to happen, you have to know yourself and what your reaction might be and how you can put that reaction into the correct perspective, meaning that the action is walking into the room. You can choose whether or not to react. And we don't have to react. Or we can simply act in love. You know what? Yeah, I know. That sister right there, she like Michigan. It's all right. I can handle that. You know, it ain't gonna upset me that much. I'm just kidding. But I mean, an example. Oh wait, there's 3 of them. Oh my goodness, I'm just kidding. But couldn't help myself. It's getting close to the game time, you know. But when you walk in a room and you already know, or you look at something on television, or somebody posts something on Facebook, I hear people all the time, I'm about to shut my Facebook page down because so and so posted something on theirs. What? So you gonna have a reaction, bother your stuff about something that somebody else did. There's that slave mentality because you're letting their action control your reaction. We gotta think about that. Well, if I love me, I'm not gonna be concerned about your action enough to make me react in any way that I can control. So, you know what? If Michigan wins, I'm gonna give you a hug anyway. Just play. I just can't help myself. Appreciate that. But basically what I'm saying is we need to know ourselves. And we need to know ourselves first. We need to understand ourselves. We need to love ourselves. So we talked about that in chapter 36. Chapter 37, verses 3 through 9 go on to say, as the breath of heaven saith unto the waters of the deep, this way shall thy billow and roll, and no other. Thus high and no higher shall thou raise thy fury. So let thy spirit, O man, actuate and direct thy flesh. So let it repress its wilderness. So let your spirit control what your flesh does. My spirit can't get angry. So why am I allowing my flesh to react to the anger that my soul, which is malleable, is putting out there? Verse 5, thy body as the globe of the earth, thy bones the pillars that sustain it on a basis. As the ocean giveth rise to springs, whose waters return again unto its bosom through the rivers, so runneth thy life from thy outwards, and so runneth it into its place again. Do not both retain their course forever? Behold, the same Allah ordained. So regardless of what's there, Allah ordained allows us. He gave us will. Is that what you're saying, Brother Martin? He gave us will. We have the option. We have the holy breath. and the option of deciding how we react and act and how we love. Islam? I saw a hand in the air.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, he said it, he said, something is added to thee, unlike to what thou seest. Something informs thy clay, higher than all is the object of thy senses. Behold, what is it?
The holy breath. Islam.
So basically, if you die, your body's still gonna remain intact, so it's not your body that's, that's.
The body will
controlling
fade
all that.
away.
Right.
We don't need to be concerned about it. That does not mean run around looking raggedy. That just means we don't need to worship our bodies. And a lot of people do that. What you look like today? Oh my goodness. I can't believe she came out the house like that. I can't believe his shoes look like that. I can't believe this. And it's okay to want nice things. However, that's not the true us. And if we love the true us, then we will love everybody. And oh, you know what? Can't believe he got on those shoes. I got a pair. Let me go ahead and give those to him. Share those with him. Share what you have. Brother Blackshirt Bay always talks about that we don't live in a giving society. And a lot of times we don't. But we need to get there. That doesn't mean, oh, I got $500 to give somebody, but I might have a meal. I might have a ride. I might have some knowledge. We need to be a giving society. We also need to be a receiving society. I say that because that's that person who you get ready to say something to them. It's like they dab on your statement. Oh, did you say? And we can't be like that because we won't get anywhere like that. And if you love you and you know that if somebody comes to you and says something that you don't agree with and what your reaction is going to be, you have to consider that that person or your action would have been in the past. You have to consider that that person that you're talking to might be where you once were. Not being boastful, not bragging, because you know is how you should approach it. And if they're not ready to receive it, you've already planted the seed, you fertilized it. So they might say no. But if they want to investigate, they're going to investigate, and you might not even know. Until you find out, they say, oh, did you know so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so? And then you don't say, yeah, I've been done know that. I thought you did. Got to watch it. Islam?
Islam.
Okay, so chapter 36. Yeah, we're almost at the end. Back to chapter 36. Verses 5 through 11. It's not in flesh to think, it's not in bones to reason. The lion knoweth not that the worm shall eat him. The ox perceiveth not that he is being fed for slaughter. Islam, Brother Murray Bay. Something is added to thee, unlike to what thou seest. Something informs thy clay, higher than all is the object of thy senses. Behold, what is it? The body remaineth perfect after it is fled. Therefore, it is no part of it. It is immaterial. Therefore, it is eternal. It is free to act. Therefore, it is accountable for its actions. Knoweth the ass the use of food, because his teeth mow down the herbage, or standeth the crocodile erect, although his backbone is as straight as thine. So in other words, we are there. We are the ones, because why can't a crocodile stand up? Ever thought about that? Yeah, I see him stand up. But his spine is just like yours, so why is he standing? Allah formed thee as he formed these. After them, all wert thou created. Superiority and command were given thee over all, and of his own breath did he communicate to thee the principles of knowledge. Know thyself and the pride of his creation, the line uniting divinity and matter. Behold, a part of Allah himself within thee. Remember thine own dignity, nor dare descend to evil or to meanness. Who planted terror in the tail of the serpent? Who clothed the neck of the horse with thunder? Even he who hath instructed thee to crush the one under thy feet and to tame the other to thy purpose. Islam?
Islam.
Thoughts? That was kind of heavy right there, wasn't it? Kind of heavy. Lots and lots of
Just be humble and respect what you have and use it for good. That's what I'm getting.
I'm getting too.
Because, we can do a lot of things, good and bad. So, it's up to us. Pick which side we're on.
And we don't have to do everything that we're capable of doing, but we tend to want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, Noah Drali talks about love a whole lot of times. Love is spoken about in many different holy books, different words used for them, of course, because not everybody speaks the same language. In our Divine Constitution and Bylaws, the word love is mentioned in Acts 1, 2, and 3. Act 4 refers back to Acts 1, 2, and 3. Act 5 says, not to cause confusion. Confusion is the opposite of peace, and you must have love and truth in order to get to peace. Act 6 mentions sinful ways, not living according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. There's love again. So that refers all the way back to the beginning. And then Act 7 mentions love again. In addition to these, sciences and sports and geography and all kinds of things use love. When you talk about science, you have the psychology of relationships, the psychology of self, mindfulness, and love is taught there. Self-love is taught there. Love of other people, love of relationships, love of things is even talked about. In chemistry, talk about pheromones. Oh, what's the scent? He smells your scent. She smells his scent. People like people. They're gathered towards people who have good auras, and that includes your scent. That includes what radiates from you. When we talk about anatomy, we talk about the physiology of love. So the heart racing, the knees, the this, the that, the reaction. When we talk about sports, there's something called love in tennis. So I decided I wanted to see what love meant. It's kind of up there, out there. It's not there's certain people who say certain things, certain people who say it means something else, but love means zero. The most interesting thing that I found about the meaning of love in tennis is that the only thing that keeps a scoreless tennis player playing on the court is the love of the game. Imagine that. Technology exists. There's social media sites. There's dating sites. There's Tinder. There's whoevermeets.com. Love is defined in holy books. We talked about the etymology. We talked about the definition. We talked about it in sciences. Again, who should we love first? We gotta start with ourselves. Okay. And then once we start with ourselves and we realize that we're enough, we have the understanding of the truth, what happens next? Because it's gonna happen automatically. And you're gonna love everybody. So Buddha said, you can search throughout the entire universe for someone who is more deserving of your love and affection than you are yourself, and that person is not to be found anywhere. Search forever, won't find them. And if you have that love of self, you'll have that love of others. Buddha also said, when you realize how perfect everything is, you'll tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. Islam?
Islam.
We are right at the end, and just in the interest of time, I want to go ahead. If you, Brother Murray, can collect the public offering. It's okay. It's okay. It's just general. All I got.
Yeah, I don't care.
No.
Myself.
I know the irony is that I usually don't have cash on me. I usually don't. And then
Right. I got you. You said your phone, you said 50 cents? Okay.
there you go. I told you. It is in here because it's not about
that
the
was
amount.
28.
It's 28. But to give is to give is to give. So
Receivership.
Okay, if you will count that up. And then, because one of the things that we're supposed to do is, if there is a public offering, the offering amount needs to be made public. So before we close out,
$7, circle 7.
Circle 7. That's powerful right there. Everything the prophet said, did, and ever gave us. So to close out on time, does anybody, and actually we're gonna close out, but then we can still talk about some things. So if everybody will stand and face the east, you don't have to. If this isn't what you do, you can just stand in reverence, but stand and face the east for those who do. And we're going to do close the Moorish American prayer and the prophet's prayer to close out our class today. So heels together, 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
the Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah, my protector,
my guide,
my God,
and my salvation.
and my salvation.
By night
By night
and by day,
and by day,
through his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
Jirali.
Jirali.
Amen.
Amen.
Now please stay standing for the prophet's prayer, and I'll say it, and you can just listen to me. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name and the 7 Elohim. Amen.
Amen.
Islam.
Islam.
Thank you all for coming. Anybody who wants to grab anything, we have some stuff over here. It wouldn't be me if there wasn't food. Even if I eat, it wouldn't be me if there wasn't food.
I ate so fast, I got heartburn.